the dues are taken out before he gets his pay. He doesn't, they don't ask, they don't, they just tell you. They don't. But some of the guys up there wanted to go to the officers club. And the commanding officer of the field said, no, we're going to give you a separate officers club, separate from the great Lufberry Hall, which was named after one of the World War I fighter pilots, not a black one, but of course. But they wanted to go there, and they were refused, and the commanding officer had everybody come into the hangar and talk to them and told them that you are not the equal of a white man. You will never be, and there will be no fraternizing on this field. Now, we had white instructor pilots to teach us combat flying. And these men had come from the Alaska Command. And all they taught us was flying formation back and forth to fight the war they're going to fight. I mean, these guys up in Alaska, they just flew back and forth looking for any trouble, and they didn't have any success. Then the returning pilots coming back from overseas, they taught us to dive, bomb, and strafe. And these tactics, later on, when we got overseas, they weren't using them anymore. And the trouble was, they taught us to go down and strafe in trail, one right after the other. Well, the Germans missed the first one, but they get the second and they get the third. So that wasn't it. They changed the tactic when we got over there to going line abreast, 4 planes. So they shoot at one and they miss them all. And everybody gets back. And the flying formation just out over nowhere patrolling. Well, when I got over there, that was also passé because the 332nd had been changed from a defensive, from the 12th Air Force to the 15th Air Force, and they were now attack and bomber protection. George went through that phase of it, and they did this harbor patrol at Naples, and then they got the P-47s when they transferred to the 15th Air Force, and then they started protecting the bombers and going on some other different high-power strafing missions. Am I taking up too much time, sir?
You're going to try it.
Well, anyway, we got when I came over there, they said, you're not going to check out the P-47, you're going to get the P-51. The P-51 was the Cadillac, Mercedes, Maxima, Lexus, you name the automobiles up the line, but this P-51 was the hottest, greatest fighter that the United States produced. And that was the plane that I was introduced to fly combat. And they got some planes on the field, and they said, now you go down there and get acquainted with this airplane. Well, I went down there and got in the airplane, and I said, I'm home. This airplane, the cockpit, is just like the advanced trainer that we had, the AT-6, made by the same company. The man decided he could produce a first-line airplane in 6 months, where he had the cockpit arrangement ready for him. He had the wings ready for him. All he had to do was put a big nose on there, and and a little bit bigger tail, and so he had the P-51. And so I said, I'm home. This is the airplane I flew in. And I got in it, and it flew very beautifully. But it had a couple little quirks to it. And these things got a few guys killed. The fuselage tank had 85 gallons of gas. And they told us, well, when you take off, you take off on the fuselage tank. So what happened was that the airplane went down the runway and the engine started sputtering, and so he cut his throttle and he went off the end of the runway, thought he was safe. Well, the next airplane came down the runway and he had the same problem, so he chopped his throttle and he ran off the runway, but an Italian was driving a herd of sheep by that morning, and the man hit the sheep and just turned him into the first airplane and crashed into him and set it on fire. And one of our squadron members pulled the second man out of the burning plane, but the first man got killed. Well, the problem was that the mechanics, our mechanics were the finest mechanics in the Air Corps. They wanted us to succeed more than we wanted us to succeed. Because if we succeeded, then they could move up. But they didn't know that the low point on the airplane tank to drain the water out of it, there's condensation in the airplane tank, just like there is in your car, and they have you put heat in there to take care of this, your gas tank. And the low point isn't there until the airplane is in flying attitude, not when it's sitting on the ground rest. So they found that out, and then they had to tell us to use the left wing tank, which could be drained at its low point before you would take off. Also, that same tank in the back, you had to burn about half of the tank, about 45 gallons. Out of a gallon a minute, that meant you'd be up in the air for 35, 40 minutes before you got enough gas out of that tank to make the plane stable in aerobatics. So the day I got there, a fellow didn't know this, and he was doing aerobatics at a low altitude, and he was doing low rolls, and he fell out of one and recovered and tried it again, and he crashed into the ground. Well, that was another thing they didn't tell us about until later. But lives were lost, not just due to German activity, but just because there was war. People were there, people everywhere make mistakes, and sometimes these mistakes turn out to be fatal for someone. Okay, one day I took off and I was flying in formation off on a mission, and we got out about an hour from our base. We got on top of the clouds and we headed out to meet the bombers. Well, this is what happened. We would take off over here. The bombers took off from southern Italy way down south of Bari, and they would fly off on some given direction. We would take off here later and go up and meet them over point X, which is nowhere, but there we would meet them right on time. That was one of the things that our leaders did. They were excellent leaders. I mean, they could navigate time, direction, estimated time, and direction, airspeed, and meet these bombers 200 miles from our base over a nowhere point on the ground, and meet them and continue to, and then start protecting them the rest of the way to the target area. But this airplane I was flying had about 400 gallons of gasoline in it, and I got up to the top of the clouds, headed off on the direction to meet the bombers, and I could not switch gas tanks. My gas was stuck on this left wing tank, and my cockpit lever was stuck there. I couldn't turn it. Okay, there was water in that valve. So I could fly forever until that tank ran out. Then I have two right wing tank, a fuselage tank, and two external tanks full of gasoline that I couldn't get to them. So I had to say, goodbye guys, next time I have to go back. I can't get to all this other gas and go on the mission. Well, it just happened that sometime people weren't aware of this soon enough, and they would get out there and they didn't have enough gas to get back, they didn't have enough gas to get anywhere, and maybe they would make it back, maybe they would crash. You know, my name is Robert Martin, but I wear the Fox nickname. Why? Well, the Army one day said that all the fighter pilots, all the bomber pilots, when they get back from a mission, they get a shot of whiskey. When you come back from a mission, you're tired and thirsty, really thirsty. The missions lasted 4.5 to 6.5 hours. You sat in this airplane, you did not have any place to relieve yourself. You could not get up and go out. You tried it once, but it didn't work good. What happened was, get up in the air and you decide, well, they have a relief tube, and I'm going to have relief. Fine. So you relieve yourself. What happens? Stuff goes down in the funnel and freezes. Outside it is 50 below zero. And then the next thing you know, it comes right back in your lap. You go through that only once. And you're wet for the rest of that mission. But anyway, they give us this shot of booze when we land. And I told the flight surgeon, I said, look, I don't feel like a drink like right now. I said, why don't you just mark on a piece of paper every time I make a mission? And after I make about 6 missions, you give me 6 ounces of whiskey and I can have a nice drink. I said, oh, you're a foxy guy, aren't you? Well, the name stuck. And, guys didn't call me Fox. Some guys didn't call me Fox. I said, not that I am so smart, but I don't know. Anyway, I'll finish up quickly.
Did you get the 6?
Pardon?
Did you get the 6 shots?
Oh, definitely. Put them in a bottle and started doing that with all the fellas. And it was much more pleasant, believe me. So I flew 63.5 missions. On my 64th mission, I volunteered. That was a real no-no in the Air Force. First thing I keep telling you, never volunteer for nothing. So I volunteered, and a man named Robert Williams volunteered his airplane, because we didn't let a new man go on a strafing mission till he had 5 completed missions protecting the bombers. After you got 5 missions in, then you're awarded the Air Medal. They sent that home to your mother if you weren't there to get it when they finally gave them out. But if you got anything happened to you before this 5th mission, or you're missing in action, nobody gets a Purple Heart, nobody gets to know you're in prison camp, nobody gets to know whether you're dead or alive. You are missing in action. Now, when 2 airplanes pass each other at 300 miles an hour, each of them going 3 miles an hour in a different direction, after a minute they're 5 or 6 miles apart. They don't know what, this guy doesn't know what happened to number 2 over here, number 2 doesn't know what happened to number 1. Anything could happen. Missing in action. Yeah, he took off with us, he flew with us, but we don't know what happened to him. And that's one of the other accidents that happened in combat. So, I volunteered to keep some young man from going on a strafing mission when he didn't have 5 missions. So what happened, I got shot down. The man, I got back, the man's plane didn't get back. But his plane got hit by German fire, it caught on fire. I had to bail out in the parachute. And the parachute cut my chin open, and that's how I got the Purple Heart. My stupidity really, I had my straps were too loose, and so the harness came up. Nobody knows what a harness is these days. Anyway, the parachute harness came up and fucking cut my chin open, knocked me out, and saved my life. So I landed, I got with Marshal Tito's partisans. I spent 5 weeks in Yugoslavia, and I rode out on a truck. Have you heard all these stories about these guys that had to walk at night, sleep under haystacks, swim rivers they couldn't swim, hide in cellars? I had the real deal. I got to a rescue mission where I was safe, got clean uniforms, got bath, food, and then I rode out to the coast on a truck and flew back to Italy, and they said, well, you can go home now because you were there so long, the Germans have got a line on you. If we sent you back, then you could be shot for being a spy because you know where some things are in this foreign land. This was one of the rules of war, and so you go back to America. And I came back to America, and they processed me, and they said, where do you want to go? And I said, I want to go to South Pacific. Down over me. And they no, you go back to Tuskegee. So I went back to Tuskegee, and after a couple of months, they said that they were going to put me on B-25s like yours. But if you got 58 points, you can get out. I said, I got 85. Goodbye, y'all.
there's another distinction in the Martin family. Prior to the middle 40s, there were no black officers in the United States Navy. Robert's brother was number 50. There were 2 of them. I mean, his families had 2 officers in World War II in the same family. He was in the Army Air Corps, and his brother was in the United States Navy. Okay, we're moving right along here. I think, which one of you want to say a little something about your dad? You 2 sisters. Oh, they doing this, huh? We have the Chappelle sisters here. Okay. Okay, why don't you both just come on up here and you can just tag off on one another. You can touch her and say, you're it.
Right.
Okay, don't forget she's over there.
I'll start. Okay, I'm Camille Chappelle Johnson, and my sister and I are what we call heritage members. And to be a heritage member, you have to be direct descendant from the original Tuskegee Airmen. And our father, Roy Chappelle, was a Tuskegee Airman. He was a bombardier, navigator bombardier in World War II. And he was also the president of the Tuskegee Airmen Dodo chapter in Chicago from 1995 to 2002 when he passed. Okay, so my sister and I are basically joined, I joined in 1996 to the Tuskegee Airmen, and I am going to promote the Tuskegee Airmen and carry on the legacy for the Tuskegee Airmen. Our father, of course, and mine, and all of the Tuskegee Airmen, and all that they have contributed to this country. Okay, we've been I've just been overwhelmed with all of these gentlemen. They have touched my life in a way that you just could never imagine. Just hearing the stories tonight, I talk with them, even talk business, and have these meetings where we do appearances, and each one of these times is special, and there's nothing that could replace it. And with no further ado, I'm going to introduce you to my sister, Kathy, who will tell you a little bit.
I'm Kathy Chappelle, and as my sister indicated, we are what you call heritage members. And one thing I want to do, I want to fast forward to 2004, because you'll be able to hear a lot of history, but particularly for the young people, if you think about what I think Mr. Taylor said, and not being angry in times like these, I think it's hard for young people to understand exactly what that means. And I don't know that young people can ever understand the conditions under which they had to achieve and excel were just tremendous. And what I want to say, our father was a navigator, and one of the things that they did not have then, they did not have Dells, they did not have laptops, they did not have the instrumentation that they have now. And sometimes they had to rely on what's called celestial navigation, which means they had to understand the stars, the constellations, and that's how they got from point A to point B many times. Again, difficult to conceptualize now, particularly for young people and even for people that aren't so young, but these